Heated shenanigans, working stiffer than mannequins. Vader time like a mannequin. Mega powers, I'm savaging. Peep the babbling, got him shook off the verbal acumen. I'm the main event, meaning nobody coming after him. The topics we be tackling, ankle locking and tapping them. I hate seafood, but I might throw the Boston crab on him. You know sometimes it gets heated. You know sometimes it gets heated.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Heated Shenanigans Podcast, hosted today by Scott. And my guest today at this time is the one, the only Joel Gertner.
Whoa. Allow me to introduce myself, please. It is I, the lyrical miracle, the sexual, intellectual, the cunning linguist, and the quintessential stud muffin, Joel. I was on top of this one chick. She was really hot, and then I realized I had to stop and do this podcast with Scott Gertner. Keep listening and have yourself an eargasm.
Well, guys, that was the episode. Everybody, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. No, that was awesome, Joel.
Thank you, dude.
And, oh, perfect. I did want to ask, now that we've got into this and you hit that amazing intro, throughout the times that you've cut all of these promos, all these intros, was there ever a time that you felt you might have gone too far, or the office told you, hey, we can't go there?
No, not really. Paul was pretty much on board. My creative, I can't remember a time that it was negged or that it was kind of rebuked for content or for kind of extremity of content. No. I did the JFK Jr. promo. And Paul kind of gave me pointers of, I remember he brought up a Saturday Night Live sketch. He was just talking about how far the envelope could be pushed. And he said, even in the 70s, that Chevy Chase was doing Weekend Update and the Pope had just died. And it was a new Pope that had just taken office a few weeks earlier. And Chevy Chase made a joke along the lines of, didn't we just read this story last week? Or is, this story, we just read this story a few weeks ago. And so he was kind of pointing out that he was okay going that far. So even with that promo, it didn't air in certain markets, and it got us a jeer on TVGuideOnline.com in their cheers and jeers. No, that was my one and only job. I don't know how to chain wrestle. I don't do flip-floppity fly. I am not strong physically to pick up a 350-pound man, but, I can talk. I can shoot the shit. I can hype a guy up. I can sound good. I can put together a compelling and riveting promo. And that's what I brought to the table. And so Paul was all for it. Yeah, it was anything goes.
Arguably, the most notable promo was the Heatwave 99, which lives in infamy for how good it was. I'm sure you get asked about that promo all the time, but if you could just kind of take me back and my listeners, what was the atmosphere like in that building during that particular promo?
Gosh, just electric. That was Dayton, and we were there a year earlier for Heatwave 98. So people, if they weren't at the previous year's show, but they were big fans because that was a strong market for us, then if this was the first time they were seeing one of our pay-per-views at Harrow Arena, then obviously they're amped up and they're excited. People who were there a year earlier knew what to expect more so in a way, and also really expected us to exceed what we had already done for them a year earlier. So Heatwave 99 was just, you know, we're always bringing in the best talent around the world for that market and for that show. And it's summertime, but everybody's cooped up inside, but just for these few hours. And then it's just Dayton's one of those wrestling towns. More so, the Harrow Arena was one of those wrestling buildings, just an old WWF, WWE, WCW, just an old TV taping building with some size and some heft to it, some legitimacy in the region as being an event building, a big event building, a wrestling building. And when you're running places like Mid-Hudson Civic Center, like we did, Cobb County in Marietta, Georgia, Dayton, Harrow Arena, when you're running a lot of these places, you've got to put your boots on. You've got big shoes to fill because there have already been some unbelievable moments in that building when it comes to wrestling. And yeah, man, just electric atmosphere. And they, you know, if anybody could ever be ready for the near riot that a Dudley Boyz promo and match and appearance brings, they were as ready for it as anybody.
So yeah, you had worked with the Dudleys for quite some time, and it was really a perfect match, a complimentary from your mic skills to the Dudley Boyz in-ring ability and their mic skills as well. What led to the pairing of the Dudley Boyz and Joel Gertner?
I don't exactly know. That would be a better question probably for Paul. I'm glad that it happened. I'm thankful. I'm blessed and humbled that Paul put me with, arguably the top tag team of the 2 or 3 year period that I was with them for so many title runs and big matches. I don't know why I was put with them. When I was doing heel ring announcer work, for a little while, I kind of bounced between different acts, different talent. And towards the end there, after I'd been with a few different people, a few different teams, I was working with the team of Devon Dudley and Axel Rotten. And I think at the time, Devon was the outlier. Devon was the only heel. I think at that time, you've got Big Dick, I think, as a babyface. You've got Bubba, I think, as a babyface. And I don't know if Spike was in yet. So Devon and Axel were heels, and Devon was kind of as a heel, no pun intended, the black sheep of the family. And I was working with Devon and Axel. That went really well. Worked with them for a number of weeks or a month or two, however long it was. And I guess then it was time for Devon to bring his half-brother Bubba to the dark side. And there he joined me and Devon, and Big Dick was not far behind. I know he was the last to turn because I remember him as a babyface because I took his moonsault, which was incredible looking and, super professional and felt like a pillow fight. But yeah, and then eventually we all just, as they say, ran roughshod.
As one of the best runs from a tag team perspective, maybe in wrestling perspective, 6-7-time ECW tag team champions, and you were along there again. Like, wrestling back then was so special because you could get away with so much more than what you can get away with now. And the character of Joel Gertner, like when ECW went out of business, was there any thought or contemplation to making a move to WCW or WWE? Or did you feel that due to their restraints, it would have hurt your character?
No, I mean, I was loyal to ECW all the way until the end. There was some interest from WWF. I spoke to Terry Taylor at one point just to kind of feel it out and see, what was going on. And he was interested in bringing in a team. He was thinking about bringing in Public Enemy, putting me with them. So we talked about that a little bit. The Dudleys went to WWF. It was right around that time that I was signing my first contract, or my only contract as it played out, with ECW. And Paul also gave me the color commentator and co-host spot on the TNN show. So to sit in with Joey, who didn't need a wingman, he had been doing all of the announcing on his own up until then, really. And then on pay-per-views, it was him and Cyrus, and on TNN, it was him and me. But that was offered to me, and the contract was offered to me. I didn't have any reason to leave, and as it turned out, if they would have brought me in with Public Enemy, Public Enemy didn't really have a long tenure there. It was very short. So would they have kept me around creatively? Would they have had something to do with me? Would it have been a situation like when Lita was with S.A. Rios and they kind of valued Lita and transitioned her and moved her kind of sideways and upward? And who knows how it would have played out, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't, but, and then when we were closing up shop at the very end, I was on the phone with Paul and I was kind of looking for any reason to stay, Yeah. And the thing is, if you stay while you're under contract, you can't talk to anybody else. And I think I had heard rumblings that WCW, then maybe at different points along the line, a year or two earlier, might have had me on their radar, might have been interested. And I never wanted to leave ECW, but I just, to kind of find out what was out there. So I kind of asked Paul, should I, I just kind of asked him for the lay of the land, basically. And he offered me a release, so it's tough, man. It's tough because, that was, the highlight of my career, and Paul gave me my big break, and ECW made me, and it's where I became a man, and it's where I cut my teeth, and it's where I did my first TV and got to travel, and it's just a lot, and within the infrastructure of ECW, I kind of went from a timekeeper to a foreign language ring announcer to the primary ring announcer to a heel ring announcer, in whatever order. And then from being a ring announcer, went to being the Dudley's kind of personal ring announcer, in a way a manager, along with sign guy, and then co-host and color commentator. And that's to do all of that in a period of 5 years, as young as I was. It was very special to me. And I never took for granted. I kind of put more stock in it as years went by than I did in the moment at the time. But even in the moment at the time, I never took for granted, I think, I never wanted to, that what I was doing for Paul, I think both as a manager type with the Dudleys, and then on his TNN TV with Joey as a color guy, what I was doing for him was what he was doing for WCW. Like, he needed to be Paul Heyman, the owner, the authority figure on his TV. He didn't need himself anymore on ECW TV to be a Paulie Dangerously type. So, there was Louis Dangerously, sign guy after sign guy. So he became Louis Dangerously. But I think in many respects, a lot of what I did on our TV as a manager and as a color commentator, I was doing for Paul what he otherwise would have done for himself but couldn't, and the kind of stuff he did for WCW. So I'm working with Rick Rude. He worked with Rick Rude. So he gave me that opportunity to be on the level, point, counterpoint, antagonist of Rick Rude. In naming me the quintessential stud muffin, that's an homage to the universal heartthrob Austin Idol, who he managed early in his career. Just, you know, in so many ways, I just felt like he was kind of, you know, tapping me to kind of be a successor to what he had already accomplished, such great feats in the business. And he was doing it on his own product. And it always meant a lot to me.
See, and you could adapt to any role. That was one of the most beautiful parts about watching you perform on TV. Again, the ring announcing, the commentary, whatever you need, especially if it was talking. I mean, you were the man for the job in ECW, and Paul, thinking obviously very highly of your quality of work, he gave you some major opportunities, and you showed him that was the right call.
Yeah, you know, again, I was blessed. Every time there was a step, it was always a step sideways to something else. But it's like, you know, and the ball was given to me to run with, and you know, the step sideways is like the pass, and then you know, the yardage that you get is, you know, you turn it from a step sideways into a step forwards, you know, or a step upwards, or however you want to look at it. But yeah, and again, you know, I like to hope and I like to say that I never took it for granted, because the opportunities that he gave me and the spots that he put me in, you know, I couldn't have asked for. It was just, you know, life being but a dream, just every day, every week.
Absolutely. Now, do you watch a lot of today's product at all?
I do.
So perfect. So from the crop of guys and gals we have currently in either company, TNA, AEW, WWE, who would you like to have formed into a new group, a faction that you were the manager of?
Gosh, I haven't thought about that in a while. It's interesting. The talent that I really enjoy watching are talent that can cut a good promo. And the more you can cut your own good promo and the better you are as a promo, the more I'll enjoy watching you. But by the same token, it's a terrible answer to your question, because the more somebody can cut their own promo, the less they need me. So it's an interesting question. I haven't gotten asked that one in a while. It's like a sporadic, regular question. I haven't really thought about it much. Like, I love watching like Karrion Kross, but I don't think he needs me as a mouthpiece. I like LA Knight, but he doesn't need me as a mouthpiece. That's a tricky one. I think I'm best used with, you know, and this is kind of why, you know, I think Bubba and I, not to say we butted heads, but some of the time it was just, you know, especially towards the end or after a while, like for the last 2-3 years, however long it was, he cut great promos and was, you know, one of the top guys on the mic regularly. And we were part of the same act. And, you know, so in a way, I wonder if I'm better with people who are going to be more physically dominant and do less talking, like an Authors of Pain or, gosh, it's always a great question. And it's always one that kind of has me at a loss, because I don't always think about it. But like you said, importantly, I'm able to adapt very easily. I've got an acting background. I've always been like a performance artist, very improvisational, very method. Um, so really, whatever the promoter or the office or creative would have for me would be something that I would put all of my heart and mind and soul into and relish. But I don't know, but it's a great question. See, now I'm gonna maybe offline. I'll get back with you and I'll let you know. Because now I'm gonna be thinking about it because it really is a good question. Who I would today pair up well with the most.
Well, with all the other success you've had in your career, which year do you feel you had the most growth for your career in professional wrestling, and what led to that growth?
Which year? So I started in ECW in 95, but I started already towards the end of September. So in one way, 95, just getting the job, starting up there, and even as a timekeeper and ring announcer, just being a little bit on the road, a little bit on TV, which for early 96 already in its own way is leaps and bounds from where I was at the beginning of 95. So in a way, 95. 97 was big. I don't know. I think every time I took a step sideways and was able to optimize it and keep the ball moving and keep it moving forward and become more of an asset to the company, I think was definitely a milestone for me and a mile marker in my journey. Doing Color with Joey, getting tapped to do that, to be a co-host of TNN, that was big. And that came with signing a contract and a significant pay raise. So I would say 99 was a big year. And those were the reasons why for that. 2001, when it ended, was momentous just because 2001, I'm from the New York City area and was living there at the time. So 2001 had personally kind of, just on a micro level, just for me personally, 2001 had its kind of, drawbacks and its pitfalls, what with the company closing. And then you throw in what's going on, in the world with 9/11 and everything. And so 2001 was a kind of year that it was one of the first years of my life where I thought to myself, if I can get through this stretch of time, then, I can hopefully, not that, I want, but hopefully whatever might come my way, I might be able to get through. But yeah, just the whole time with ECW from 95 to 01, that's really like, for some people, their kind of best years are college, or their best years are high school, or, it has nothing to do with chronological. It could, maybe in their 30s or in their 40s, they're in their peak at work, whatever, and they have a certain job or they're with a certain company for 5-10 years, and that they consider as like peak years in their life. For me, ECW, just because of how young I was when I started and how young I still was when it was over, but how much I was able to accomplish from starting out as a timekeeper.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, there's really no, like, it's so hard to quantify, like, when my success started versus when, like, it kind of, like, stagnant. But, I mean, again, like, you had such an incredible run in professional wrestling and ECW. You had the pop-up appearance within TNA with the Dudleys, getting a little bit of a reunion going on there. I did want to ask one of my final questions here for you, Joel, is throughout the career, from the start to the finish, what would you say is one lesson you learned in professional wrestling that you didn't expect to learn? And how did it change your career afterwards?
From professional wrestling, I learned, aside from discipline and aside from humility and aside from kind of protocol, it's like I wasn't on any team sports in high school. I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child. So even amongst chaos, even amongst disorder, there's order in a way. There's structure, there's protocol. Like I say, just to be part of a bigger unit, to be doing something that, you know, just being an only child and stuff, I've just always kind of been an individual, and I've always kind of been, you know, striving for my own personal success and achievement. And with ECW, I learned that I was part of a unit, an organization, a family, a fraternity, a society, a train with many cars. And so yeah, to be part of the Dudleys, which was a large faction, and to be part of the Dudleys within ECW and then within the greater wrestling business, when you get the kind of exposure where people who see you away from shows, when you're kind of living your personal life, they recognize you, they come up to you. It's a responsibility. And so the wrestling business kind of taught me that, to be part of a bigger goal and a bigger mission that is larger than just going out there to go into business for yourself or to purely get yourself over. Wrestling is about getting everybody else that's out there over. And if you do that, you know, not to say you shouldn't worry about getting yourself over, you should work at it. I mean, it's always better, you know, but the primary goal is to hit your marks, execute your spots, and be part of a well-oiled machine. And being with ECW taught me that.
Absolutely. Well, guys, before we wrap up here, I want to turn the floor over one more time to Joel Gertner. Do you have any upcoming appearances, any projects you got that you're working on that you would like to promote?
I do. I have a few, and I don't want to forget any, and I don't want to give any of them, kind of undue, priority or preference. So what I will just let people know is ways that they can stay in touch with me, find me on social media to get regular updates, and then they'll be able to find out about, for June. Off the top of my head, I'm going to be at a horror convention and wrestling event in Chicago. It's a big regional one in the Midwest. And then Battleground Championship Wrestling, promoted by Tim Embler, who I hate, and who it's a shame that everything that I do there puts money in his pocket, and the stuff that I do puts a lot more money in his pocket than the stuff that some other people do. And he wouldn't be able to monetize me without my acumen if his life depended on it. But nonetheless, it's still worth checking out because I'm part of it, and it's that's going to be July 4th weekend, maybe the 6th, the first Saturday I think of July, at 2300 Arena, the old ECW arena. So I said I wasn't going to prioritize anything, and then there I did anyway. But to find out everything, news about an action figure, whatever the case may be, whatever might be coming up, You can check me out on social media on X. I am at StudMuffinSays. And everywhere else on social media, by and large, I am quintessential Stud Muffin. So that includes Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and all that. So find me there, and trust me, I shill myself till the cows come home, as the day is long, and you'll be able to find out anything you need to know there.
Also, Cameo, still on Cameo?
Cameo, yeah. Pro Wrestling Tees. There are a couple of t-shirt SKUs on there, and cameo.com/Joel Gertner. If you want me to cut a promo on you, if you're feeling down and you want me to raise you up, I'll cut you down and you can feel better about yourself and be like, well, before he talked about me, I didn't feel so bad. So maybe I could just go back to that frame of mind. No, I'm just kidding. I could also, hype you up and shine you up and turn you into somebody of the Dudley's caliber, stellar individuals and human beings, and good role models and taxpayers like the Dudleys were in Dudleyville. At least they didn't pay taxes. Don't say I said anything. But yeah, Cameo, I'll do anything. Or especially if it's somebody that you don't forget you for a second, right? Don't be selfish. Spend the $69, and it's only $69, and it's exactly $69. For $69, you can go ahead and get a Cameo and forget you for a second. I'll talk about somebody in your family. I'll talk about your best friend. I'll talk about your worst enemy, the mailman, the doorman, whoever it is. And again, I'll shine them up real nice, or I won't. I'll do the opposite, whatever you want. It's your $69. I can do a promo for you. I can basically do one almost with you. At conventions, I'm able to do cameos with people. Those are fun. But $69, cameo.com/Joel Gertner. And you can find me at Pro Wrestling Tees as well. I've got my own podcast, the 69-Minute Eargasm. Our episode with Johnny Rods should be dropping expeditiously, momentarily, and imminently. And check that out. And check out all of our recent podcasts. We've done a bunch of them, dozens upon dozens, and each one better than the next.
Absolutely, guys. Take it from the Stud Muffin himself. You guys do not want to miss this opportunity to get a promo by Joel Gertner, the legendary Joel Gertner. And guys, for everyone here at Heated Shenanigans Podcast, as always, guys, take care.